Hello and welcome to Odds on Champions League final in Wembley, Saturday 1st of June. Borussia Dortmund, Real Madrid. After the whole year analyzing this beautiful competition, we have these two teams and we have our personal dream team, Dani, Fisichella, Alvaro, Romeo. Hello guys, to analyze the last game in club game this season before the Euros, before the Copa America. We finished the season with this huge game. So, of course, let's try to see which bets are the best for this game. Remember, guys, to give us some love, comment the video with us. Tell us if you are betting on the favorites, Real Madrid, on the underdog, Borussia Dortmund, everything right now. Well, first thing, we have to check the odds, I think, for this massive game, of course. People are saying, since we knew the final 3 weeks ago, that this is the most disproportional final in years, because Real Madrid are big favorites, 1.68 to win the game. Borussia Dortmund 5.5 to win the game, to lift the trophy. Real Madrid 1.3, Borussia Dortmund 3.5. But we had the experience of last season, for instance, when Man City and Inter arrived to the final in Istanbul, and Dani Fisichella is nodding because Inter was very close to disappoint Man City. Perhaps they were even better in the final, and we also have the experience this season with Bayer Leverkusen losing to Atalanta, or Man City losing to Man United recently in the FA Cup. So be careful with the odds, be careful with being so favorite, Dani.
Absolutely. And by the way, last year Inter were 675 to beat Manchester City. This season, Borussia Dortmund are shorter, 575. Why? Why is that? I don't quite get it. Maybe we can explain it by the fact that I think the bookmakers sometimes are a bit biased towards Premier League clubs and towards Manchester City. But I don't see such a short distance between these two sides. Maybe it's because Borussia Dortmund came out of the group of death with PSG, Milan, and Newcastle. But at the beginning of the season, Borussia Dortmund were 51 to win the trophy. Inter, for example, were much shorter. They went down to 36 in December, and now 575 to win within 90 minutes. Is there any value in there? I think the value is on Real Madrid being around 168, 170. I think that's a really good odds for a team that has won 14 European Championship, with a manager that is looking for a 5th consecutive Champions League, and for a team, Real Madrid, that has only lost one game this season, the 24th of September, 3-1 against Atletico in the derby. Since then, it's 25 matches for Atletico Madrid, no defeats, scored on average 2.4 per game, conceded very few goals, only 0.89 on average across the matches in the Copa del Rey, Supercopa, La Liga, and of course the Champions League. Funnily enough, if Real Madrid manages to win this one, or at least not to lose, it will be the first time they end a European campaign with no defeats. So where does it put Real Madrid compared to the other great Real Madrids of the history, which won the Champions League recently but had defeats in the process? Well, it means that this is a team very solid, very conscious of their strengths, that can mold themselves on the opposition, perhaps lacking a couple of the superstars they had in previous years, but certainly not the belief and not the character and the experience, which is really important. Players like Nacho and Modric, if they win the Champions League, they will become the first ever in the history, alongside Paco Gento, to win 6 European Championship. And I think that stands for himself. player like Kroos retiring at the end of the season, and so on and so forth. But even the young players of Real Madrid, Vinicius, Rodrigo, Bellingham, still have plenty of experience, have been there, have done that. So of course, they look very, very strong. Where is the game can be won and lost? For me, in the first 20 minutes. The first 20 minutes are key. If Borussia Dortmund manages to resist the pressure and hold on onto a 0-0, a new game begins. A little bit like Inter last season in Istanbul. I watched it. They thought the first 25 minutes were really good from Inter. They managed to slow the tempo, didn't concede many chances to Man City. It could be the same here. But yeah, huge task ahead for Borussia Dortmund. Here we're talking about a team that finished 5th in Bundesliga and were saved 6 times by the post, by the woodwork against PSG. Can they win it again? I don't know. I think this is gonna be a low-scoring win for Real Madrid. I'm gonna go with my first tip, by the way. Under 3 goals, 175. Normally, finals are cagey. Finals are not hugely spectacular. Not expecting a classic. Maybe Real Madrid to win 2-0, like 2 goals to 0. Under 3 goals, 175.
Well, how misleading, Alvaro, could be the data if we say that Dortmund had 3 clean sheets in the knockout stages, that Real Madrid drew 4 out of the 6 games played in these knockout stages after Dani, for instance, reminded us that PSG hit the woodwork 6 times. Is this Borussia Dortmund that good defensively? Is this Real Madrid suffering a lot in Europe this season to get to the final?
I think that data can be misleading, that's for sure. I believe that PSG could have scored against Dortmund much more, just didn't happen. And on the other hand, I do believe that when Real Madrid needs to keep a clean sheet or they need to keep under control their opponents, they know how to do it. So yeah, data can be misleading. In the case of Real Madrid, for example, I'm going to give you a couple of examples. They drew against Betis 0-0 the other day. That counts like a draw, but if they really had to win that game, they would have won it, but they didn't have to. That goes to the stats, to the database as well. Then they conceded 4 against Villarreal and 4 against the same player, Sorloth. But if Real Madrid had something to play for that day against Villarreal, they wouldn't have conceded 4. So, at the end of the day, yes, data can be a little bit misleading. It's, of course, one notion to keep in mind. But, I'm going to stick to what I know, what I see. And, I watch these sites all the season round. And this is probably the best ever season I can think of when it comes to Real Madrid. I have never seen Real Madrid have such a good season. Edu, you are a Real Madrid fan. I remember the 2016-2017 season was phenomenal for them as well because they won the league and the Champions League too.
I think that one was better team actually than this one.
Yeah, that's the thing. That Real Madrid at the time, in the 2016-2017 season, had a better squad. This is more unexpected to me. They haven't won the Champions League yet, of course. That is still to be seen. But, they have had the injuries of Courtois. Key players have been out for a long time. They didn't replace Benzema with a player of the same pedigree. And yet, they are on course to win a really good double. This was a little bit unexpected for everyone, even for Real Madrid, I would say. I think that probably Florentino Perez didn't have in his books such a good season predicted, but it happened, and it's been great. And they got 18 points in the group stage. Then they are unbeaten in the Champions League. This is the first time, by the way, that they reach a European Cup final without losing a match. They haven't lost in the Champions League yet, and they have won the league. They have won the Super Cup. They have won both Clásicos. And Mbappé is very likely to come. I mean, the moment is phenomenal. The only problem is that Toni Kroos is leaving. I said last week that the week had been, after all, good for Barcelona because Barcelona lost Xavi, who was a liability, and Real Madrid lost Toni Kroos, who, in my opinion, is Real Madrid's most unique player. But anyway, coming into this game, I am going to go for Real Madrid to win. Even more, I'm going to go for an ace and handicap -1 for Real Madrid, which pays 208. I think Real Madrid is favorite for this game. They know how to win these finals. They haven't lost a final since 1983, European final, and that is something that we have to take into consideration. This side has been a serial winner, especially in the last 10 years. But of course, Dortmund has been the surprise of the tournament. They epitomized what Bundesliga is fast football, quick transitions, the ability to produce 2 or 3 chances in a short period of time. Then they are the leaders in balls recovered in this Champions League, so when they go for the duel, they go well. It's a team very well equipped for the box-to-box games as well. And, I think that this is going to be Borussia Dortmund that we will remember, because this is a team devoid of big stars, in my opinion, because in 2013, they reached the Champions League final. But in that side, they had Gundogan, Lewandowski, Mario Götze, and Marco Reus. And we all knew that those 4 players, they were going to be big in the next decade. And look at what they achieved, all of them. But this time, I don't think that Borussia Dortmund has big stars in the making. I think that they've got very good players, but not big stars. And that gets proven by the fact that in the Champions League, they have had 12 different scorers, which I believe that in a way, it is their biggest strength. They've got many dangerous players. None of them are tremendously dangerous. None of them will probably get the main attention from any defender. But, they've got a group of players who can score from inside the box, outside the box, who work together very hard. And this is the biggest strength of Borussia Dortmund. But all that said, I think that Real Madrid is the favorite here. That's why I'm going to go for them to win or to win with an Asian handicap -1.
Last time Real Madrid lost the Champions League final, European Cup, back then was in 81 against Liverpool in Paris. This is the 3rd final for Borussia Dortmund. The first time they arrived to the final, they beat Juventus. It was a surprise back then in Munich. By the way, Borussia Dortmund is still the last team to win the trophy for the first time they get to the final. After this, some other teams like Monaco or Atletico de Madrid or Tottenham, for instance, they lost their first time getting into the final. Dani, let's talk about the players. Is completely different mentality or type of players. If we are thinking about 𝐿𝐴 in Borussia Dortmund, and if we think with Vinicius and Rodrigo, 2 really fast players against 𝐬𝐭𝐚𝐲 and Slottenberg, defenders that are quite slow. And I guess also Rudiger could be the perfect pair up for 𝐿𝐴. We saw how Rudiger defended pretty well against Haaland, for instance, this season. Of big strikers.
He loves a physical challenge, and Haaland suffered even last season against Rudiger. That's a great point, well made. But on the other hand, Slottenberg, Süle, 𝐬𝐭𝐚𝐲, they had a good game against PSG. They were really good at anticipating the PSG passes, the moves. They controlled Mbappé fairly well. Of course, Mbappé is always going to have some chances, but so don't discard them completely. I think experience is important, but I think on the side of Real Madrid, what is really remarkable is the willingness of the star players to play together and to help each other and to play with each other. In the DNA of Real Madrid a few years ago, of the Galácticos, there was almost the sense that they would have gone and won the game by themselves, the likes of Kaká, Ronaldo, Zidane, etc. Perhaps there was less cohesion. In this one, there is a real will of Rodrigo, Vinicius, Bellingham to pass the ball to each other, to help each other. Vinicius has done it for years. Vinicius to Benzema was the way Real Madrid won the Champions League a couple of seasons ago. And they're doing it again. When it comes to Bayern Munich, probably the tactic could be launching the ball quickly to 𝐿𝐴, trying to get 𝐿𝐴 to hold the ball and then free up the runs of Sancho, of Brand, of the fullbacks, which I think are one of the strengths of Borussia Dortmund as well. There is a bit of a sense of destiny in this side, Borussia Dortmund. Sancho coming back to London, South London boy, playing the game in London. Haller, his testicular cancer, again, a former Premier League rejects, didn't quite work out at West Ham. Niklas Süle, discarded by Bayern Munich. And then you got a lot of unspectacular players, the like of Emre Can, Sabitzer, Scholbeck, Brandt. But again, as I said, it depends. Can they resist Real Madrid pressure in the first 20 minutes. What is interesting about about Borussia Dortmund is that they often had problems breaking down those teams in the Bundesliga that sat deep. So they might have some chances against Real Madrid pushing high, but then again, Real Madrid is so good at adapting themselves against the opposition, and they'll be really, really mindful not to leave the space for the run of the likes of Adeyemi and Sancho. Last time Real Madrid lost a final, 1983, against Aberdeen. That was a surprise. I think if Borussia Dortmund wins this one, it's perhaps a bigger surprise than when Alex Ferguson did it with Aberdeen back then. Look, for me, again, I do like what Alvaro said. Real Madrid, Asian handicap -1. If they only win by 1 goal margin, you get your money back. If you want to be a little bit adventurous, Real Madrid to win 2-0, which pays 3. They won 2-0 against Liverpool 2 years ago. Last year, Manchester City Inter finished 1-0, low scoring game. Real Madrid win 2-0. I like it 3.
Do you know the real adventurous one here? Real Madrid to come back in the game, 9.0.
Yeah,
That's the one.
It's a crazy one, I know, but some Madridistas will fancy that, definitely.
Yeah, I checked it. Well, we have already some comments here, and some people are going for the underdog. Okay, we have 𝐜𝐵𝐽𝐵. I think it's about time to back the underdog, guys. We have Amir going for the underdog as well for Dortmund, and Hussein or Harry are going for Real Madrid to win and under. As Dani said, last finals we saw only 1-0. Also Liverpool against Tottenham, for instance. It's good also the yellow cards market. Harry is pointing out 𝐬𝐭𝐴𝐳𝐵 3.5, Mendy, who usually doesn't get cards, 6.0. Alvaro, you like a lot the individual markets. I was checking Vinicius or Rodrigo to score 2.5, the big favorites. 𝐿 to score 4.75, goal after the 78th minute. I checked it in Bet365, 1.83, because Real Madrid are usual suspects in scoring late goals. Both teams to score 1.75, under 2.5 goals, 2.15. The bookies expect an over. So if you go for the under, you can make money, Alvaro.
Yeah, you can, definitely. Look, let's face it. Lately, the Champions League finals have had very few goals, okay? But of course, the teams playing them weren't Real Madrid and Dortmund against each other. But since 2020, the Champions League final has been decided by 1-0 scoreline. It is that way. And it's something that I think we have to add to the mix. I mean, Bayern PSG 1-0, Chelsea Manchester City 1-0, Real Madrid Liverpool 1-0, and last season's final Manchester City Inter Milan 1-0. I don't think that this is going to happen this time, but I went for an Asian handicap -1 for Real Madrid, which wouldn't be too bad for this bet, because you will bet you get your money back if Real Madrid won it by a 1-0 margin. But I think that Real Madrid is going to win it by a bigger margin this time. I trust in Real Madrid a lot, and I'm not taking anything away from Dortmund. At the beginning of the season, I didn't trust them much. I ranted against them before they traveled to Paris to play the first game of the Champions League. But, you know, I'm going to tell you something about Real Madrid that I'm obliged to back them. Look, this season, Real Madrid has played 12 games in the Champions League, right? I did 12 bets for Real Madrid, of course. 10 of them were right. And Real Madrid has won me 6 safe bets. It's a team that you can trust in Europe this season, or at least I believe in them, and they gave me the belief back with money. Real Madrid has been, for me, the most reliable team to back on this season by far in La Liga, in the Champions League. They have lost only 1 game in all competitions. And, you know, when it comes to the individual market, Vinicius to score 2.3, I can take it. Vinicius to score or assist, 165. I like this one, and I'll tell you why. Because if you mix Real Madrid to win with Vinicius to score or assist, you get a mini ACA of 274, and I'm going to keep that one. This is something that I really like, and I'm going to stick to that. Vinicius in the Champions League has been, from March onwards, the difference maker, and I believe that Real Madrid is going to win it. So I could go for that. And if you think that a Dortmund player can suffer Vinicius, automatically the name that comes to your mind is Ryerson, the right back. Yes, Ryerson to get a yellow could be Ryerson got 2 yellows in this Champions League campaign, but maybe my favorite player to get a yellow card from Dortmund will be Emre Can, the German international, because he got 4 yellows in the Champions League, and Vinicius goes to the middle quite a lot, and Real Madrid with Bellingham over there and with Rodrigo sometimes using the central channels can put in certain difficulties Emre Can. So I think that him getting a yellow card will be an interesting one too, because he's getting many in the Champions League.
All right. Well, Real Madrid lost 2 games this season, no? One in La Liga against Atlético de Madrid and another one in extra time also against Atlético de Madrid, this time in Copa del Rey. After
but
the
statistically, that doesn't count as a defeat.
But still, well, it's a defeat in the head-to-head. These teams saw each other a lot of times, and Borussia Dortmund only won in 2014 2-0. Marco Reus actually scored the 2 goals. After that, 4 games, 2 draws and 2 wins for Real Madrid. Of course, the Borussia Dortmund fans still remember the 4-1 with Lewandowski scoring all 4 goals. This was the last time Borussia Dortmund reached the final. Also, with Marco Reus, it's going to be the farewell of this player, Marco Reus. Toni Kroos at that time was playing for Bayern Munich. So it's going to be a special day for both of them. Even perhaps Nacho is leaving Real Madrid at the end of the season. Still unknown. Dani, any other tip, any other angle about this final? Where do you think we can make money?
Well, I think in the low-scoring goal market, I think under 3 goals, Madrid win, and under 3.5 goals. I think these are all good. But statistically, if Real Madrid beats Borussia Dortmund, they would have beaten 4 Bundesliga sides in the same season in the Champions League, because of course they beat Union Berlin, Leipzig, Bayern, and nothing has ever happened before that a team dispatches 4 teams from the same league in a Champions League campaign. But I'm sure there's going to be stats about it. However, for Borussia Dortmund, if there is a silver lining in this, is that none of these wins for Real Madrid have been totally convincing, and especially the one against Leipzig. I think it's probably the team they struggled the most against, especially the return leg at the Bernabeu. Leipzig could have scored, could have taken the game into extra time. So the wins, the 4 wins, have all been by a single goal, even against a struggling Union Berlin. There have been 2 draws. Real Madrid have been less convincing in those games, but they got such a mental and technical strength. They seem just ready to clinch another title, the 15th Champions League of the history. Really, it would be the upset of all the upsets, really, if Real Madrid loses this one. They seem so ready and so prepared to do it. So I'm not prepared to back I think Borussia Dortmund season has been disappointing. They had a fair degree of luck also in the draw against PSV, a team that was participating back in the Champions League after a long time. Against Atletico Madrid, the defense was more than suspect. Again, a crazy game of coming and going, which Real Madrid will avoid. They have the ammunition to avoid and slow down the tempo. Yeah, I'm backing Real Madrid fully here.
It reminds me a little bit of the final in Glasgow between Real Madrid and Bayer Leverkusen back then, but perhaps even that Bayer Leverkusen had more stars with Ballack or Lucio, for instance, in the team, that this Borussia Dortmund, because you mentioned before that perhaps Alvaro, there is no one danger, let's say, one man apart from Jadon Sancho, perhaps Adeyemi, that can be highlighted, that is more the choral situation of the team?
Yeah, I would say that, but that doesn't mean that their players are not dangerous. In fact, they are all of them very vertical, because, of course, Jadon Sancho, Adeyemi, Füllkrug, even Savitzer, just marauding the opponent's box. They are all very vertical. And, when they sniff the opportunity to go in the box, they go and they take the shot. And, as I said before, they've got 12 different scorers in the Champions League this season, which is a lot. I think that most of the profile of most of their players is an offensive, dangerous profile, but none of them are dangerous week in, week out, if that makes sense, or not consistent in a season-long period. Another one that I really love, it's Julian Brandt. For me, technically speaking, it's the biggest genius that Dortmund has right now in the squad. But the Dortmund side does a few things very well. For example, I have seen them scoring a few goals in the Champions League this season, sending long balls in the box. They scored like that against Atletico de Madrid. They also profited the high line of Paris Saint-Germain with a long ball to 𝐿𝐴𝐵. So they do that very well. So I think Real Madrid, and especially Rudiger, who's commanding the defense of Real Madrid, should keep his teammates very focused about that. That Dortmund sometimes create danger just sending a very simple long ball into the opponent's box. This is one of the strengths of the team, because not only 𝐿𝐴𝐵 can hold that ball and win it, but also Dortmund has many players who are very good in the second ball, and I explained before that they are the team that has won more duels in the Champions League. So if you send a long ball as a Dortmund team, normally you send 4 or 5 players to fight for that. And in the edge of the box, you get the likes of Can or 𝐜𝐵𝗒𝗒, who are very good shooting from the distance too. So this is one of the things that Real Madrid will have to be very careful about, the duels and the second balls, but they've got the players to do that, because Real Madrid's midfield has a lot of energy. Tchouaméni is not there, and he's one of the energetic players of Real Madrid, but Camavinga is there, and I think Alfredo Valverde will help a lot with the second balls as well. So, I think that even Real Madrid has the weapons and the tools to tackle and suppress what it is, for me, the biggest asset of Borussia Dortmund, just going for the duels.
Well, it's certain that Courtois will be in the goal. Tchouaméni is injured, so Camavinga will step in, and also Nacho will play alongside Rudiger in the center of the defense. It's funny enough, Dani, that you mentioned that this Borussia Dortmund was disappointing along the season in the Bundesliga and in the Cup. Obviously, they are doing a great European season. And now that the managers are calling their squad for the Euros, many of Borussia Dortmund players haven't been called.
Only 2 for Germany.
Mm-hmm. It's funny enough, no, that some of the players that are gonna play the biggest game of the season.
I mean, I guess 𝐜𝐵𝗒𝗒 is in the Austria squad, of course.
2 for Netherlands.
2 for Netherlands, Madsen.
Yeah. I mean, they've got some plenty of internationals,
but
yeah,
they got a couple,
So,
and
well,
I think it's it goes to show that their season was below par. By the way, if Borussia Dortmund wins, Germany has 6 teams in the Champions League next season. So the 6th qualified in the Bundesliga goes to the Champions League. Who was the 6th qualified? Borussia Mönchengladbach,
no,
I guess.
I don't think so. It's 5. No,
Only
it's
5?
5. Only
Okay,
5.
well, I think we should. I think it's 6. I don't know. I might be wrong. I might confuse you with it. But anyway, 5 for sure.
After Atalanta stole that spot to Roma, it's only 5 for its country.
Clever move. Congratulations to Atalanta.
Any other tip, guys? No. Or before we say goodbye to this show, I want to remind you that we are finishing the month of May. Of course, the final is the 1st of June, so you have a new opportunity to participate in our monthly tipster competition starting the 1st of June, or as well, we launched already the competition for the Euros and for the Copa America, so you can start predicting the games, the results in these 2 competitions, the Euro and the Copa America, and you can win money, real money, that will be transferred to you via PayPal. So it's a good opportunity. You can see the prize pool right there to participate in the Euros or in the Copa America. Well, Dani, Alvaro, you both are backing Real Madrid. Tell me, guys, what do you think in the comments if you are backing the favorites, Real Madrid, the underdog, Borussia Dortmund for another European disappointment, as we saw in the Europa League final between Atalanta and Bayer Leverkusen. Thank you, Alvaro. Thank you, Dani. Thanks, everyone, for watching. We will be back with the Euros and with the Copa America. So we are not on holidays. Bye-bye.
See you guys.
Bye-bye.
Only Dani.